Hey guys, this episode is brought to you by Sinusoid Cables.
Right now, they are selling a limited run Houston giving cable. It's on sinusoid.com/Houston. The profits go to Samaritan's Purse for their Texas relief efforts in the wake of Hurricane Harvey.
Yeah, it's a really attractive looking cable too. I'm assuming the red and blue motif is, Texas colors.
Yeah, those are the representing the Texas flag, the red and blue.
Gotcha.
There's no white, but
so it's pretty cool. Something we've always loved about Sinusoid is how transparent they are with the costs of their business. Like they have a thing on their website breaking down like how much goes into their pocket, how much goes into the pockets of their employees, how much goes into, the actual materials and everything. It's a full breakdown of the cost of them making a cable for you to buy it. Is from what I understand, their gross profit from this is going directly into the pockets of charities that are helping out.
They are taking time out of their own day.
They're donating
basically
their own time
because
too.
They're not. This is basically you're buying a cable. You are paying for the cable and the jacks. Everything else is being donated, so they're not paying themselves.
Right.
They're just buying the material and making it for you, and then donating the rest to Samaritan's Purse.
It's a really cool thing for them to do. It's sort of one of those things where I'm sure they're thinking, we'll donate the way that we can. This is what we do.
Yeah,
let's make cables and
smiles
and smiles. Exactly. Thanks, Steve. Hey, this is Ryan.
And this is Steve, and you're listening to 60 Cycle Hum, the guitar buying, selling, trading, modding, fixing, breaking, review, plot podcast.
Plodcast. One day you're going to get it right.
Yes.
I think you've gotten it right a couple of times. I feel like you got it right for like the first 2 years.
I used to read it every episode, and then I've been trying to do it from memory.
Try it again, but do it slow, like jazzy.
The guitar buying, selling, trading, fixing, modding, breaking, reviewing, playing, podcast.
That's a lot of snaps.
Yeah. I didn't think I could snap that fast.
Oh, snap. All right. Do we want to get into this? Do we have anything new going on, Steve?
I do not have anything new going on. I'm still trying to sell that Strat.
Oh, really?
I don't know if the market's down or if I'm just priced too high.
Maybe you should taken that Jaguar trade.
I know, or that one of the guys on the group actually offered me a tonal recall, but like I'm trying to avoid shipping. But maybe I should take that up.
I got boxes here. You
yeah.
want to ship
something?
something?
You do have guitar boxes.
Yeah, I got that big mono box. It'd be perfect.
All right, maybe I'll hit him up and see if he's still down.
Yeah.
That'd
you got a soft case to throw it in or something?
No, it's in a hard case.
Oh, there you go.
I'm
Perfect.
going to sell the hard case too. So I'll just put some bubble wrap to give the hard case a layer between it and the cardboard, I guess.
Yeah, here's what you do. Trade for the tonal recall. We'll send one of our tonal recalls to Joel for the red knob mod.
Yeah.
And then we'll do a video with him. And then you can sell one if you don't want it.
Yeah. Let's do it.
We'll figure it out. All right, this is about the time of the show where you asked me if I've got anything new.
Oh, yeah, right. You got anything new?
Yeah, I do. Well, it's kind of new. It's
you almost moon voiced there.
I do. So I was thinking about selling that pink Dean that I have. And I was like, well, I don't want to sell it with the T-Scope pickup in it because I had this really funky T-Scope pickup in the bridge. So I'll swap out that pickup for the Dean humbucker that was in the other Dean, which is cool because it's a double cream, which I don't know how they pulled that off without, how'd they get that past DiMarzio doing a double cream? But anyways, I swap it in there, and playing around with it, and the humbucker sounds great. I'm like, this is a fun guitar. Maybe I should keep it. Nah, I should sell it. And then I had this thought, I ordered a box of arcade switches to do momentary kill switches with. I should stick one in this. So then I started a new project with this guitar. Instead of immediately putting on the market for $50 to get money out of it,
right,
and to get save myself time, I embarked on this 3-hour project of drilling holes and cutting a pick guard and wiring things up. And now I've got an arcade button on it. And I've been having a lot of fun playing this guitar.
Of all of the mods to do,
I know.
It's like, oh, I'm going to put this humbucker in it because I don't think I'm going to get a lot for it. And then you go arcade button mod.
Yeah.
Which is either, I feel like that's a love it or leave it sort of mod. Especially in that color blue.
Well, I thought the blue was cool because it's like a contrast against the neon pink.
Right.
I could have gone black or white. I ordered this box off of eBay. It was like $10, and it came with like 12 arcade buttons.
Oh, cool.
So I got a bunch.
You going to put them on anything else?
I might put one on another thing. I'm going to save that for the future.
Oh, okay.
Talking about that. Maybe I'll put one on the Epiphone SL when it comes in.
There you go.
There's room on there. But yeah, it's a bunch of fun. I'd always wanted a guitar with a kill switch. So I'm kind of considering this like my test of the concept and like figuring out the way to do it and whatnot. Because I made some blunders. I was trying to use this big drill bit and it like grabbed onto the pickguard piece and like tweaked it really bad and put a crack by the screw.
Oh, no.
And like put a big gouge in it. So it's really imperfect. But it looks really funky. And
Did
like
you
I
just
said,
try to go from like no hole to like for the full hole in one shot?
I was using one of those big drill bits that has like a guide screw on the tip and then gets really big because it's a really big hole for the kill switch.
Okay,
it's really big. It's like almost the size of like a quarter or something like that. Like it's a big button.
Right.
So you can't use just the regular drill bits. You can see my bit up there on the wall. It's got blue tape around it right now.
Oh, okay. Oh, one of those. Yeah,
one of those. So that dug in and really screwed stuff up. But the buttons like sleeve around it kind of covered up most of that, so it's not a big deal. I still think I could put this guitar on Craigslist and get $50 for it. Like someone who loves funky stuff is going to see it and be like, "Yeah."
If you keep that till the 200th episode, you could sell it to somebody who comes for $50.
That's true. Or I was thinking we could raffle it at the 200th episode.
That'd be cool.
Like do a raffle for it. So
depending on how many people show up, you might be better off just unless you're going to do like an open raffle to like the entire group.
Well, we might do a couple raffle prizes if we do a raffle, like kind of like follow Cowerfest lead and get some stuff.
But I'm saying if it's like a must be present to win and only like 5 people show up, like
no, I did the poll on the group and like 25 people said that they would most likely show up. A few of those,
like 8.
A few of those, I looked at them and I was like, no, there's no way.
Yeah.
You just said yes because you want to feel positive.
I didn't look at the actual poll results. I was just looking at some of the comments. People were like, I'll be there if it's in Florida.
I know, right? But you know the way it is. Like half the people who say they will come to an event don't come.
I don't even know if I'm going to go to the 200th episode.
Steve, you're supposed to record with me. But then half of the people who do come bring like a friend and a half with them, so you end up with the same amount of people.
We should record the 200th episode like a week ahead of time, and then have the 200th episode party, and then just not record.
Oh, and do like a live like play of it, or like. Just do the party.
No, we should just. Well, some people want us to do like try to do YouTube Live or something for it.
No, that's dumb.
Or like a Facebook Live or some kind of live.
So the thing is, like that sounds like a great idea, but then you're really going to all this effort for like the 8 people who will actually watch the full thing live.
True.
It's
true.
The live thing. We've already experimented with that.
Ryan, we have 8,000 subscribers on YouTube. I guarantee, like
we're coming up on 9.
10 of them will watch.
We're coming up on 9 pretty quick.
Yeah,
we're like 8, 7, something like that.
Oh, I don't know. I haven't looked.
Yeah, it was going quick there for a while after that Epiphone video. But yeah, those are things we're thinking about. The 200th episode is really only 14 episodes away, which is, I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but then you realize it's 14 weeks.
Yeah, it's 14 weeks. 14 weeks. So that's like 3 months, like exactly 3 months.
Yeah,
September,
I was thinking about us.
So it'd be like early December.
Us doing it a few weeks before those episodes would air anyway, so that it gives us time to figure out if the audio is any good and what we need to do.
Yeah.
Like if we need to do it as a clip show where like you and I are sitting around afterwards, like talking about whatever, and then bringing in clips from the live show. We'll figure it out. This is boring for the regular listeners
I know.
to listen
What
to.
the heck? Why are we talking about this?
Should we get into an ad?
Yeah. You know what I never think about when I cruise Craigslist?
What do you never think about?
I don't think about whether or not something I never think about how much the seller knows about this.
Every now and then I think about it, but I think in this case of this ad, it's pretty clear that the seller knows not much.
Yeah.
Doesn't know much about this.
Yeah, Cody Hanlon set this in. I think it's on OfferUp in Florida. And the title is Don't Know Much About This. The text is selling that it's bass guitars thing. It's worth $2,000, but I'm selling it for $1,000. How do you know it's worth $2,000 if you don't know much about this?
Yeah, it doesn't seem to know anything about it.
For what it's worth, I can't even tell what all this is, but I don't think there's $2,000 worth of pedals.
I recognize quite a bit of it. I mean, first of all, we've got a Fox Pedal Kingdom. It's a pedal board, by the way.
Oh yeah, this is a pedal board.
Yeah, it looks like it's in an ATA case.
I recognize a Kingdom. I recognize something from Walrus.
There's the Pog.
There's a JHS thing in there.
There's, I think that's one of the anniversary Tube Screamers.
Okay.
One of the, you know what I mean? It had like the clear knobs on it or whatever.
Is that just an AB switch on the bottom?
It was like the metallic finish Tube Screamer that came out. Yeah, I'm betting that's I'm betting that's a looper or an amp switch or something like that. Did you call out the JHS pedal? I think that's an Angry Charlie or something similar. Looks like a digital delay from Boss and a digital reverb. And I think that dark one by the volume pedal, I think that's a carbon copy.
There's a It's something.
It's something. Or it's like, I don't know, something about it to me is saying maybe it's a full tone pedal of some kind.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I don't.
Oh, and there's a tap tempo in there too. And I don't know what that blue thing is.
It's some kind of Walrus pedal.
You think that's a Walrus pedal, that blue thing?
I think it's definitely a Walrus pedal.
Yeah, because it's got the round.
Don't know which one.
It's got the round logo underneath the foot switch.
Yeah.
There. And then of course a Polytune and a tap tempo switch and a Ernie Ball VP.
Yeah.
Volume pedal. So, I mean, let's figure out the value really quick. Let's just call everything here average 175.
I think that's high.
150.
I was going to say the average here is probably like 120.
Well, let's call it 125 just to round up.
Okay, so you got four on the left. If you were to call those four 125, that puts you at $500.
Yeah.
The four on the right, that's $1,000. So I guess there's like maybe, I feel like the volume, Polytune, tap tempo switch, and looper whatever thing.
That's all under $200.
That's all under $200. So you're looking at maybe a $1,200 here.
But then you got the case and you got all the cables and whatever power situation.
Yeah, I guess.
I'd be willing to call this worth $1,600. Like flip potential. So like picking this up for $1,000, yeah, you can probably make $600.
Right.
Well, not make $600. You can probably make $400, and then you'll have a bunch of patch cables and power source left over.
Right, because you're not going to sell off.
Yeah, you're not going to sell patch cables. Like no one's going to buy your dozen patch cables. They might buy it, but you're going to be not going to be making a lot of money off of that. So yeah, the price is very tempting here. But it's very obvious that the person selling it doesn't own this stuff.
Right.
Or they're not the person who is the original owner of it in the way like maybe they're selling it for a friend who doesn't know how to use Craigslist or something.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like, why? Obviously, the assumption is that it's stolen.
Yeah,
like you say, it's a bass guitars thing, but
these don't seem like bass pedals, do they?
No,
I mean,
really.
You can use anything for bass.
Yeah,
and this could be a functioning bass board. It just doesn't give me that vibe.
No, it doesn't.
I mean, I'm having little Sherlock Holmes visions here, like thinking about like visualizing the riffs that would be played with each pedal, and I'm not getting bass. I'm not getting bass at all. And bassists typically, I don't know. The Tube Screamer throws it off the most, and the Angry Charlie.
I feel like the Kingdom throws it off the most for me.
But you could use a clonish type pedal for a bass.
Yeah, but
Don't
Klons
you
aren't
use-
really known for like their low end.
Yeah, that's true.
I've used the Architect because it's got the EQ.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, it's got the Architect has a ton of low end on it.
Yeah, but
Thing's
that's because you can dial it
ridiculous.
in.
It's ridiculous. But certain pedals on here you could use for bass, like the Pog. You could use the reverb and the delay and the volume pedal and the tuner, obviously. But then the rest just doesn't scream bass, really.
Yeah, I jumped over onto OfferUp in Tampa, but I haven't been able to find this listing.
Because it's sold right away.
Yeah.
So I was like, I don't care. I don't want to know the story. Just give it to me.
Well, and I mean, so I've seen stuff pop up on different groups where people say like, "Oh, I saw this thing, and this deal seems too good to be true." And in some cases, it's a scam,
Sure.
legitimately. But then I've seen a lot of times people just jump to like, "Oh, it's probably all stolen. Why else would it be so cheap?" But some people are just like, I don't know. I feel like I've kind of changed my position on this over the year. I've never felt bad about giving somebody what they want.
Sure.
So,
Like if they're asking for a certain amount of money and you give it to them, you don't feel bad for that.
nor have I ever really. I've bought a couple things, so it's been a long time, where I felt like the person selling it didn't exactly know what they were selling, and so I've gotten stuff cheap that way.
Sure.
But again, in that situation, like I don't know.
Well, in the case of if they don't know what they're selling, then it's like obviously they didn't buy it. They're not the one taking a loss on it.
Right. Well,
Whoever they got it from is the one who took a loss.
I've seen people. I've seen people like sell stuff for cheap that they just like. I guess they didn't know the value of it, so they know what it is. They're like, "Oh yeah, I know. I've had this pedal." Like, so if you find like a Tube Screamer on Craigslist for like $40,
Right.
And maybe say you find like an old 808 for like
Sure.
$50 or whatever, and you're like, "That's a $300 pedal." And you go and buy it for like $50. That guy knows what it is. But maybe all he did was like, "Oh yeah, I Googled Tube Screamer and like,
Right.
Or I went to Guitar Center and like just looked through their effects racks and I
So
saw
then
some
you don't
newer
feel
ones.
bad, like like buying a Closet Classic, Strat off of someone, and they're just like, "Oh, it was my grandpa's old guitar."
I don't know.
$200,
I mean,
come get it.
In some ways, like, and we've talked about this on the show before, but years ago in San Diego, there was this lady who was like selling her husband's guitars.
Yeah.
I think she wanted like $200 each. And I looked at them and I was like, I emailed her. I was like, "Yeah, like I'm interested." But they sold like probably right away.
Yeah, immediately.
And I emailed her. I was like, "Yeah, I think each one of those guitars was probably worth like $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. Like, because they looked like 60s. Like it was a 60s jazz
So
bass.
you were the spoiler.
60s Strat. I was a spoiler, but then if I had actually like been, if I had been first in line, like I don't know if I would have necessarily been like,
Sure.
"Oh yeah." I mean, maybe I would have gotten there and been like, "Look, like I can give you this money right now, but this is what I would do if I was you. Like I would go to, such like this guitar, like probably at the time, like a place like Buffalo Brothers, and been like, you should take these in there and have them appraise these for you."
I still wonder if that whole thing was an email address harvesting scam or something like that.
I don't think the lady knew what it was because it was like she had it listed as a 7-ender.
Right.
So I guess so. That's one of those things where when I try to list items, obviously like as good a spin as I can. So years ago, I had that Ibanez. I think it was a SBG 200 or SBG 400. I forget which one. I think it was the 200. And I listed that as like, "Oh, great Japanese playing, like just like a Les Paul Jr. style," and and like hyped it up. And I sold it to this guy, and he's like, "Oh yeah, like so this is like a really great playing guitar for the price." And I was like, "Oh yeah, totally." He's like, "Oh, where are you selling it?" And I was like, "I don't have room for it," which is accurate.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I bought it for the purpose of flipping, but I'm also not keeping it because I don't have room for it.
Yeah.
So I do go back and forth on that kind of stuff. Maybe that's why I'm in such a dry spell. Maybe I've been like, it's karma. I've been such a shady
No,
seller.
I think the market's just down in general right now. Like, I think everyone has gotten tired of collecting everything. Everyone's got a ton of gear right now.
It's all George Grun's fault.
Yeah. So should we move on to a topic or something like that?
Yeah.
Would you, if this was local, would you have been hitting this guy up $1,000? Would you have invested $1,000 into?
With clearer pictures, I think I would have at least taken the time to math it out and figure out. Yeah.
Figure out exactly what walrus pedal that is.
Yeah, I think
figure out exactly what that dark one is.
If there was a legit flip, $300-$400, like that, I could go +3 or 4.
Yeah. It'd also be nice to know the make and model of that case.
Yeah,
like is that a legit
this is
pedalboard
only
case,
this
or
is
is
only
that like
picture
a
one
gun
of
case?
Yeah, this is only picture 1 of 2. So who knows what the other picture was?
Yeah,
and
it's probably just a picture of like a dog on a futon,
right? In turn, the other side of that is how much do I think I could get for it, and whether or not I could even actually get $1,000. Like, because I guess
if you're saying if you could get the pocket money to go buy this,
yeah.
Gotcha.
I mean, I guess like I have an emergency fund, so technically, like I have the cash to do this.
So is this an emergency? Is what I'm asking.
Could I sell this fast enough that I would theoretically avoid any emergencies?
Right. I mean, you could potentially increase your money by 50% with this.
Right.
That's a pretty safe bet, but then there's some footwork involved. You have to sell everything.
Well, with something like this, you sell everything on Reverb one by one.
Yeah.
And just take your 5% or whatever loss.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, we're going to hit this amp. It's sent in by Caleb Neff. It's not an amp, it's a question. He says,
yeah, it's a topic.
Is there a real difference between a clone of an amp versus the real thing? For instance, is a real matchless DC30 worth the extra $2,000 over a Seriatone Dizzy 30 with proper speakers? Is a Tyler 2020 worth $500 more than a no-name 5E3 clone with good speakers? So I think both of these situations are maybe a little different.
Sure.
So I guess from just a pure cash angle, the answer is probably no. If I'm being honest, the answer is no.
Sure.
Is a matchless DC30 worth $2,000 over a Seriatone Dizzy 30?
I don't even know what amp that is.
It's a matchless DC30. It's just
no. I mean this Seriatone.
It's a clone of the matchless DC30.
Oh.
That's why it's called the Dizzy 30.
Oh, Seriatone is that Malaysian company.
Yeah.
I remember now.
So instead of this model is probably actually called the it's made by Seriatone, and I think it's actually called the much less Dizzy 30.
Oh my gosh, that's great.
And so all of their names are kind of like these puns.
Yeah, they're the ones who make that Klon Centaur clone.
Yeah, and it's called like the Centura.
But it's got the exact same, they reproduce the box and everything.
Yeah. Like in that case, like there's a even bigger question, because I think in reproducing the box, not just by like going for the look of the box, but by actually reproducing the box, like they're in like a trade dress conversation now.
Yeah, but they're a foreign company, so it's like
right.
You can buy them here through overseas sellers, but you can't be like a dealer here and sell them here.
Yeah, right.
Because then you're breaking the law. Judas Priest.
Oh my gosh. So there's a couple different ways I think to look at it. Buying, he's one. I think the second example is a little easier. Maybe is a Tyler 2020 worth $500 more than a no-name 5E3 clone with good speakers. Presumably, like both of those, I don't know specifically what the Tyler 2020 is, but I know there are a lot of 5E3. It's the Tweed Deluxe, I believe.
I said like I know what you're talking about, but I'm just agreeing with you.
Pretty sure it is.
I'm like, you sound like you know what you're talking about, Steve. I agree with that.
It's one of the classic like Fender Tweed circuits.
Yeah,
I think it's the Deluxe.
There's a million of these, like Champ, like clones out there and things like that, and like people reproducing Princetons and people reproducing Marshalls all over the place and whatnot, and Voxes. Yeah. Whether or not it's worth it, let's tackle that a little bit.
Yeah. So I think one angle is Tyler has been around a while. So if you're going to spend the extra $500, I don't know what that looks like. So you buy a Tyler. Say that extra $500 means you're paying $1,700 versus paying like $1,300 for just a clone. You're just paying for some guy's labor, basically. I don't know if those numbers are realistic, but let's using those numbers. So your no-name 5e3 clone, like if you decide later on you don't want it, you now have an amp on your hands that probably isn't actually worth it. Like you can say, it's a no-name 5e3 clone. But that's about all you can say about it. You got to find somebody who's like willing to buy into like the same mythos that you bought into. But when you turn to sell the Tyler, like people are going to recognize, that's a Tyler.
Right.
They're not just like looking for an amp. So from that perspective, like down the road, it might be easier. But as far as the value goes, like where I was kind of going earlier is if your bottom line is just, I want to play something that sounds good, you might find something really cool this way.
Oh, sure. I mean, there's a lot of amps that are very affordable that sound good.
Yeah.
This might not be the exact specific thing that you want. To me, there's two angles on this, like whether or not it's worth it.
Right.
The first angle, obviously, is resale. Like, does the random clone that you bought, you were just talking about this, does a random clone that you bought have any resale value? It's got no name on it. Who knows who built it or what the qualities of the components are and things like that. And obviously, brand name goes a long way. Brand recognition goes a long way. And if you've got something with brand recognition, you might save $500 getting your custom clone made by some no-name guy who does a great job. But then you spend that extra couple $100 on the branded one, and now you can sell that thing for close to what you bought it for. Where the other thing is going to lose value a lot more dramatically.
I think one of the bigger questions, and I don't know all of the details on the Seriatone example, is I think for the most part, Seriatone's whole deal is just trying to do like now they call on one of the websites that's selling it called Guitar Amps USA. They describe the Dizzy 30 as a tribute to the matchless DC30. But I've always heard that the Seriatone stuff was basically trying to be a component for component,
right?
Like piece. Whereas, like if Tyler puts out a 5e3 circuit, like they're not just going and trying to do a part for part clone of a Fender Tweed amp. They're going to kind of have their own approach to it.
Yeah,
so that could be something that's like.
Well, that was going to be
different.
my next point. We've talked about this pedal before, the M Drive and other things like that. Isn't there another pedal that's got a really low component count too? What am I thinking of?
Probably, but the M Drive is the one that's been talked about a lot.
These very simple like drive pedals where the component count is simple, the schematics are simple. But then whenever people try to make a clone themselves, they're like, it just doesn't sound all that great.
Yeah.
And then the people who own the real deal are like, what are you talking about? This thing sounds awesome. And what it comes down to is you have someone making these things who, they have their component list, but they're actually going through each component and physically measuring them to get the exact component value that they're trying to hit, because components have like variances on them, like sometimes big variances.
Yeah.
And if you don't hit those marks, you can go sideways really quick. So, these people building these pedals or amps or guitars, they have these very specific tolerances in their own mind, their own recipes, that they hit when they're working on the thing that no one else can hit.
Right.
And that's part of what you're buying when you're buying a more specific brand name. Like, I'm sure, like Chris Benson or that Tyler guy you're talking about.
Yeah.
Or, whoever else. Like if they were working on, we'll just say a Champ clone, they would be putting their own spin on it. And they're going to do
they're going to do some kind of development.
They would be using their magic golden ears to find the component loadout that does the exact thing that they want to do.
Right.
Like when we've gone to Cowerfest, I was sitting there listening to Benson, and I feel so bad. What's the guy's name? The other amp builder.
At Cowerfest, was it August?
Not August.
I don't know. What's his amp company? Was it Jack?
No. Damn it.
Jack
This is so
Roan.
embarrassing.
Without knowing the company, I'm not going to know who the guy was. Plus, I didn't go to Cower this year.
From Milkman. Why can't I remember his name?
Tim
Marcus. I feel so bad. I had a super brain fart. It's really hot right now, by the way, guys.
Oh, dude, it's like sweltering in here.
Yeah, it's like a heat wave right now. So forgive me for my mind not working. I'm sorry, Tim Marcus. But anyways, I was sitting there listening to Tim Marcus and Chris Benson chew the fat about amps.
Right.
And like the way they're talking about components, the way they're talking about response from speakers and from, transformers and things like that. I'm like, I've never heard anyone talk about amp components in this way before, where they're cooking on a different level.
Yeah.
Where if there's some guy, in a garage somewhere who got a schematic for a Champ, and he's like, I've made 3 or 4 of these and they sound pretty good. Like, that guy's not on the same level.
Yeah. Or he's like, he might be that guy who's, oh yeah, I use orange drop caps because they're the best. It's like, well, why are they the best? Oh, just everyone knows they're the best.
Every time I see a picture of someone else's amp, there's those orange drop caps in there. Okay, well, no, like there's a finer art to these things. And if a builder earns a name for themselves, then maybe the value is there if that's something you care about.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm talking about this, but I use a stock Princeton Reverb,
right,
and a stock Ibanez amp as like my main amps,
right,
and things like that. I use this, all my amps are stock, really, like a Classic 50, all these things. Like, I'm not out there cork sniffing, but if you are a cork sniffer, maybe that's where the value is,
yeah,
in the expertise of these very specific builders and in the brand names that they built. We've done a lot of rambling here. I think
that's a good point. We can probably just leave it at that. These guys build these things. A lot of them know, like, they've tried every component that you can try for a particular part. Every brand, every type, every whatever. So they're usually doing something specific.
They're as familiar with every component of the amp as you are with the glasses in your cupboard. You're like, I know which cup is my cookie dunking cup. I know which cup is my favorite, like, coffee cup. I know which cup is my favorite tea cup, and that over there, that's my big beer cup. Like, you get like a specific relationship with, specific components.
Yeah.
And you know exactly what they're best for, even if it's a laughable concept to someone else. Not laughable. You know what I mean. You know what I mean.
Yes. Yes, I do.
Having trouble talking, having trouble thinking today.
Yeah. All right. Let's hit this next ad. No, let's do some housekeeping.
Housekeeping.
We had 2 people join the Inner Circle in the last couple weeks. So thank you to Javier Herrera and Charles Gibson. I have your guys' shirt information, so there should be a shirt and some other stuff.
I just reordered stickers today.
Yeah, actually, I'm waiting on those stickers
for the Inner Circle.
Something that we're I don't know. Words are just, I'm in the same boat as Ryan a little bit, but basically, I'm going to send you guys some merch. I guess as soon as those stickers come in.
Yeah, it shouldn't take long. Shouldn't take long. It might even be here in time for you to pick them up this weekend.
Yeah. And the other thing is nothing. Thanks for supporting us at the $10 level. That's our Inner Circle. If you guys support us, you can, or want to support the show, go to 60cyclehumcast.com. There's a link there to click on support the show. It'll take you to our Patreon page, which is patron.60cyclehumcast. No, I don't know. It's on Podbean somewhere.
Yeah, you'll find it.
60cyclehumcast.podbean.com. I think there's a support the show or patronage link there. When you join the Inner Circle, you get a basically eventually possibly going to be exclusive Inner Circle type of shirt. It's not basically at the best friends and Inner Circle level. We are getting merchandise that we are only giving to those people.
Yeah, exactly. With the shirts that we have now, they are available to buy to anyone. We've got the classic logo shirt on a gray heather.
Yeah.
And then there's also the threadless shop. If you want to contribute to the show or just want to have swag and you don't want to join the inner circle, we have a threadless shop.
A lot of people bought those mugs, man.
Yeah, we've got mugs.
I think we sold like a good number of them as soon as they came out. That's a good number.
Yeah. So we don't make a ton of money off of that, but it's more about getting the merch that people want.
Yeah, and there's a variety there because we wouldn't have been able to do like mugs on our own. I don't think. I mean,
the
we
thing
could
with that
have.
is like just shipping kills you with that stuff.
Yeah.
It just kills you because you got to pay for the shipping from the place that produces it and then to the person
to actually send it. So Threadless is kind of doing like they're not even drop shipping because we're not there. People don't order from us; they order from cccyclehum.threadless.com.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's jump into the next ad.
Yeah,
here.
This next ad is a Mosrite copy. This was sent in by Ryan. Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah, that's me. I found this on our local Craigslist a while ago.
This is on Reverb.
I found it on Reverb. So you want to read the copy or should I? There's not a lot. I'll read it.
Yeah, you read it.
Okay. Morales Mosrite copy, 1960s cream color. Morales Mosrite copy by Xenon. Pickups have been wax potted to prevent microphonic feedback. Thin neck, great trim, good player, no case. So I was looking at this, and oftentimes I'm looking at kind of like Mosrite copies and cheap versions of them, high flyers and whatnot. And I always have this debate. Yeah, this looks pretty good, but it's $600 plus $150 shipping, so $750. If I just throw another $150 at that, I can get a brand new Hallmark,
right? Basically,
and that's where I'm always sitting, and it always keeps me from buying things like this.
And yet, you only own one Hallmark, right?
I know, right? Well, every time I play a Dinosaur Ghost show, I'm like, I really need to get a second Hallmark. I need to have a backup. But I don't actually need to because it very rarely breaks strings.
Right.
But it's that impulse, And I've always wanted the traditional Mosrite, kind of upside down fat strap body sort of shape thing going on. Live out my Ramones fantasies and my Ventures fantasies in one fell swoop. But yeah, that cost issue always just hits me. And this looks like a really good example to me. It's hard to know without playing it, but it looks like it has a really good example of a copy of that Mosrite trim on it. The pickups look legit on it. Everything on it looks legit except for the headstock is obviously like a Japanese import
the
variation.
The nut is metal.
Yeah, that is actually a really close representation of what Mosrite used.
Oh, okay.
They had these.
It's a zero fret.
It's a zero fret, but then the nut is really more of a string guide, and it looks like a big metal lipstick tube. The Hallmarks, they used to have that, but they don't do that anymore for whatever reason.
This one does look pretty good, though. Everything looks like it's in pretty good shape. It looks like maybe the switch tip is gone, but
that's replaceable, though.
Yeah, it's pretty good. So, do you think this is worth like $750?
I think locally, yes. I'd have trouble paying for the shipping on this. The real question is, how good is that bridge actually? Look close up on the bridge. Look at the position of the saddles. They're all the way back. I wonder if this thing has intonation issues. Like they shifted it all the way back, trying to find intonation.
Maybe it's just never been set up.
Yeah, that's true too. Maybe it's never been set up correctly, or someone had it and they're like, oh, all these are, in a weird place. I'll just screw them all back.
Right.
You never know with these things, and that's really the risk with this too. Like you don't know how good or bad it's going to be.
Yeah.
It's kind of beat up, but in a charming way. I like the relic on this. A nice natural relic. I would totally play this as a stage guitar for sure. It looks like the tuners have been swapped out too. Those can't be stock, right? Those aren't original.
Without seeing the back of the headstock,
yeah, there's a screen grab there was a picture on Reverb, but I didn't screen grab that. It looks like a modern closed back tuner, which I don't think would have been on this guitar. So yeah, what are your thoughts on that as far as like buying instruments that are close, but if you just threw a couple $100 in there, like you could just get something way more legit?
I think maybe there's more interesting examples in this. I mean, you're talking about the price, but And granted, this does have the pickups that I think are probably closer to what a Mosrite would have.
But aesthetically, they're very similar.
But I was
it's
just
not a
thinking,
humbucker; it's their own thing.
I was thinking about how that Univox High Flyer was on our local Craigslist forever for like $400.
Yeah.
So I think there's certain brands that
we know someone who tried to buy
it.
it, and the guy was like, I don't think I want to sell it now.
Oh, really?
And he just took it down. Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of that. It's kind of just overall, it's an interesting question. It kind of starts getting into, though, this is more modern, like some of the Eastwood conversation of you could get.
Well, I also have this thought about the Dan Electro Mosrite copies.
Right.
Where those are basically, I think they're like $700, $800 new or something.
Yeah.
But they're way not as good as a Hallmark, which like nails the Mosrite thing down almost perfectly. And it, like I said, it's only a couple $100 more than that. Like, yeah, it's a whole debate. Like, what is the place in the market for the $700 Dan Electro version when there's a $900 version,
right?
That like blows it out of the water.
I think that's fair. I think that's I think that's a kind of a classic-y question. And unless, I mean, I guess there's situations where like that's the case and it's worth it to like, I guess so specifically I'm thinking of like the Hamer specials versus like a Gibson Les Paul Jr., like a Hamer Studio versus like a Les Paul Studio, where it's like similar shape, similar idea going on. But those Hamer Studios for a while, like, is it the Studio or the Special I'm thinking of?
The one that looks like a double cut Les Paul Special. Yeah.
Like those can get, pretty cheap. They're like cheaper than a Gibson. But then I guess
the import ones are, but if you look at the US ones, like the US Hamers still like hold value. Like
I've seen the US, I've still seen the US ones like cheaper than Gibsons would be, or at least like in the same sort of price range, I guess.
Yeah.
So
I think that's a harder comparison because Hamer kind of developed their own reputation.
Yeah, as like a custom shop.
Outside of being, a Gibson style guitar. An idea that throws a wrench in my whole thought here though is brands like Fender and Gibson though.
Right.
That have a different price point every $100. You could spend $300 more and get a much nicer Strat. You could also spend $100 more and get a nicer Strat. You could spend $100 less and get a less nice Strat. You know? They're all over the map, and it really just comes down to what your budget is.
Right.
Where in this case, something that's trying to be a Mosrite, like there's just a lot less available.
Right.
Like you've got your J Tercer versions that are like $200, which are probably not great. And then you work your way up, and then you're hitting like the Dan Electro ones, which some people like them. I didn't. The ones I've played, I don't think they were great at all. They were really like dead feeling to me. And then you work up from there, and you've got companies like Hallmark, and then you go up from there, and you've got companies like I think they were called M3, and they were out of Los Angeles, and they were making like dead clones of Mosrites for like $3,000 or something like that. And then I think Mosrite themselves still exists in an import sort of way. I think they're being made in Japan. I think those are like $2,000, $3,000 somewhere in there.
Yeah.
So you have less options, but then I feel like under $1,000, you might as well go for the Hallmark is really what I keep thinking.
Yeah.
Like this is a debate I'm having for myself here. Like this isn't me trying to sell anyone on Hallmarks. I just like keep dancing around with this. I really don't need another guitar right now. It's stupid.
You need it. All right, let's hit our next topic. This was a question asked by Adam Dolhanic, the inboxer. He says, I've never been a fast player. Am I just screwed? I don't know. Ask your wife. Is it a problem for you guys that you're not a fast player?
I mean, it's not, the fastest isn't the winner.
I'm not a player. I just crush a lot. In all seriousness, Cole Duke from the Gear Slum replied, and he said, playing fast is like shooting threes. Some people make their whole career from it. Some can't do it to save our lives. I'm like Shaq. I can't shoot a three to save my life, but I can dunk like a mofo. Dunking in this analogy is strumming really hard. to which Ryan replied, "Sports."
I didn't reply, but I would have.
I'm not really like a fast player either. That's something I've tried to work on.
Sure.
It's something I think that you can develop if you like really focus at it, because I know sometimes like there are lead lines that I need to learn. And when I've actually taken the time to like, okay, I'm going to play this at like half speed, and now I'm going to play this at like 3/4 speed.
Right.
Like, if I give myself enough time, I can eventually usually get there. Especially if when I show up on Sunday morning, the leader changes the key to like a way easier one to play the riff in. And I'm like, boom, I'm there.
Yeah.
That's what I needed to get that extra that last 10 beats. So yeah, also I don't know if being like Shaq means you just strum really hard. I think being like Shaq means your amp is way too loud.
Too much low end on
and then the backboard shatters.
Yeah. Being like Shaq means that when you play, you turn into a magical genie that can grant wishes.
There you go.
I guess I think a lot of people would classify me as a fast player. What would you say that's correct? I don't want to like sound like I'm tooting a horn.
I always think of you as a fast player. I
can play fast.
I think it's one of those things where, it's interesting, and I think it's something about the way, like, there's like style. I guess there's like style. I think you're stylistically fast. I don't think of you as like in the same. I don't know. It's weird.
Here's what I say about myself. I when you think of like
I think
fast
you play
players,
fast.
You think of people who like these neoclassical shredders,
right?
That are ripping up the fretboard and like hitting every note. My fingers can move fast. My brain does not move as fast as my fingers do. So it's like my fingers have all this muscle memory for little tricks and things, like little like rando licks that I can pull in between, beats and whatever. But my mind isn't thinking about it. I'm thinking about getting to the 5th or the 7th in the scale.
Yeah. So I think what I would say for those of you who watched when we were doing the guitar demos and we had Ariel on, I would say that you know how to play fast. Ariel knows how to play music.
Exactly. 100%.
So Ariel, and you and Ariel are probably like, you can probably play as fast as Ariel.
Sure.
Like he can actually like do more than just play the same like riffs over and over.
Yeah. I mean,
like you have a much smaller box that you live in with
absolutely.
speed.
The reality with me is that, when I started playing guitar, I was like, I wanted to play Dick Dale songs, and I wanted to play kind of like shreddy, like Gary Hoey songs.
Right.
And I just wanted to play lead lines. I didn't care about chords at all. But the reality came into it eventually that because I worked on all that speed and I didn't work on, like playing with a click or anything like that, or fundamentals or playing like actual songs, that now my speed is a crutch, because if you're playing fast enough, no one notices if you're missing the beat if you're playing, sixteenths. Mm-hmm. Like if you're playing quarter notes, like, and you're off the beat, it's really going to matter. Yeah. But if you're playing sixteenths, you're just kind of doing Flight of the Bumblebee over there.
Right. So you have any thoughts for like?
You're not screwed. No, he's not screwed if he doesn't play fast. Like most songs don't require, the vast majority of songs don't require fast playing. I'd still say that it's better to play smarter and to have your most powerful muscle is your brain, right? Like if you can train your brain to be more musical, that's really where the power is as a musician. I don't know if it's actually, I feel like it's a recent development. I don't know if it's actually a recent development, but I've been listening to more. I guess I wouldn't say I've been listening to like a lot of 90s music. I've been listening to a lot of different music, which we touched on an episode or two ago. Sure.
But I have been like tapping like just other genres. Sometimes a lot of times when I run, I listen to podcasts, but sometimes I just like need to get like a focus music run. Sometimes I'm just in the house and I want to listen to something different. Where I'm going with is, I feel like guitar playing has changed a lot in the focus, and I feel like the fact that we have so many guys now that do like is it hybrid picking? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, like the fancy finger picking that like Mason Stoops does and stuff like that.
Like that kind of stuff. You see that a lot more because I listened to, so like yesterday, I listened through Matchbox 20's. No, was that this morning?
I don't know, man. Morning. I wasn't with you.
I listened to Matchbox 20's first album, which was like multi-platinum album. And the guitar work on there is like, I don't want to say it was good or bad, but there wasn't anything flashy about it. And like a lot of bands like that, like Third Eye Blind's first album, like in my head, like there's nothing on that album that's like, oh, that's really flashy guitar playing, but there's like some iconic riffs in it.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's something that's necessary that has or hasn't changed about music. I do think the way that we are exposed to individual players now with YouTube and with everything else has really changed the way as players we perceive our own playing.
Sure.
And the way we perceive other people's playing. Like I said, versus before where unless somebody threw like a intentionally technical guitar solo into the middle of a song, usually the solo was either to give some kind of like break in the music, or
it's so the singer can catch their breath,
right? Exactly. So I mean, sometimes there was like interesting stuff going on, but like a lot of I guess I kind of go back to like certain like 90s and early 2000s stuff because it's stuff that I'm like, if I sat down with one of like this song for like 20 hours this week, like I think I could play this entire song.
Oh, sure.
Like all the guitar parts.
Yeah.
But now I think there's more music where I'm like, I don't know what's going on. Like I'd have to completely learn a new playing method.
The whole like finger picking thing going on right now is pretty nuts. Like where did it even come from? It's bananas.
I don't know.
Like almost all the people like doing playing at booths at NAMM are all doing this crazy finger picking.
Yeah.
I don't know where it came from or if that's what I'm expected to do now because I'm not doing it. I do a little bit of hybrid picking, I guess, in the way that I hold a pick with my thumb and my index finger, and then I'll use my ring finger to flick various strings.
Right.
But I'm not like these guys just using their pinkies and every finger in between, you know? Like, it's nuts. This is a completely different skill. Pretty incredible stuff.
Yeah.
I've kind of been, in my thoughts, my deeper thoughts about guitar as an instrument, like, there's articles out there claiming that guitar is on its way out and it's, there's no more rock stars anymore. There's no more guitar heroes. And I'm like, guitar is just growing up and it's become just part of the band now. It's not the star.
Yeah.
And it's still important. We still are going to need guitar players and there's still going to be like famous guitar players, but it's just going to be more niche. And it's forcing guitarists to be more musical and be more like team players, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah.
And it might swing back around, like, get a generation of guitarists who actually have to play to the band.
Yeah.
And rise out of that.
I think there's also, not to belabor that because we did like an episode where we focused on that more. But there is a lot to be said about like when, Chuck Berry pulled out the guitar, like, this was in the Elvis area where like Elvis era.
It was in the Elvis area, down there.
Yeah. Well, that was where I was going with it is like Chuck Berry had this like kind of lower slung guitar style, or at least like he would like do the duck walk thing where he kind of got down, like low. And kind of like the guitar drew attention to parts of the Elvis area that like you couldn't, that they didn't want to show on TV.
Yeah.
And then I was reading about, or I was listening to, what show was it? Was it Guitar Nerds? Maybe this past week it was some podcast where they were talking about the Jimi Hendrix white Strat that he lit on fire.
Right.
And then apparently that was because it was like he was trying to like outdo the Who, I think.
Yeah. Oh, I listened to that episode. It was a good episode.
Was it Guitar Nerds?
Yeah. Yeah. No, what was going on is they were fighting over who was going to headline the show. And the Who is famous for smashing stuff. And so, yeah, he was like, if I'm going to open, I'm going to like outdo them somehow.
Yeah. So that, you know, so this was a time when like there was and even, you know, Angus Young and wearing the schoolboy outfit or these different things. Like there was an iconic sort of like rebellion to electric guitar that just doesn't really exist anymore. If somebody smashes,
it's already been done.
If somebody smashes a guitar on stage now, it's like, oh. And also, I think in a lot of ways we're like socially conscious to where like, oh, you just smashed a guitar on stage. You could have given that to some kid after the show, man.
No one.
What a jerk.
No one freaking cares if like the Killers smash a guitar. You know, like, it doesn't mean
no.
anything.
Everyone cares, but it's like they care in like a bad way. They care in like a, oh, you could have donated that guitar to charity and built 15,000 wells in a third world country.
Even outside of that, it just doesn't have the social impact. I mean,
right.
You know, like,
right.
You know, the Who or Jimi Hendrix were smashing stuff. It was like, I can't believe they're doing that. I've never seen anyone do that before.
Why would you do that?
Where are they going to get more stuff before? I think they're supposed to play tomorrow. Where are they going to get it? You know? Where like it became, you know, by the time our generation came around in the 90s, it was like people were smashing guitars almost to mock that. Like,
right. All you really saw that in were like fringe. Like I think
it was like, you know, like Kurt Cobain would throw his guitar 20 feet in the air and let it hit the ground, and he'd be like, we smashed our guitar.
Yeah.
Get it? Because like that's what rock stars do, like in air quotes, rock stars.
Yeah.
You know, like it felt more snarky, and now it's just not even ironic anymore to do that.
All right, let's hit this last ad.
Let's do it.
This was from Awesome Cheap Guitars.
I like the development of that topic, though. We really found her. Like we just got into the bramble with it.
I feel like we could do a whole. I really like. Well, so that article, Guitar is Dead article, popped up in a couple groups.
It's going to show up twice a year for 3 years.
And I was like, I really just wanted to like post a link to that episode again and be like, just listen to this.
You should have done it.
If
you can even find it, I don't remember what we called it.
Oh, I'm sure I could find it. All right. So anyway, this is from Awesome Cheap Guitars. This guy says, I bought this official, with air quotes, Floyd Rose guitar for $75. Actually, I think official Floyd Rose might be the name of a Facebook group.
It might be.
This was what, early 2000s?
Yeah, somewhere in there. I remember these being on the wall at Guitar Trader back in the day.
Yeah. Basically, Floyd Rose developed a guitar where you would put the strings on backwards.
No, it was more than that.
Well, they were like bullet-ended strings.
But they were bullet-ended on both sides.
Oh, really?
It was a completely tunerless design made specifically for this guitar. So as you slide those bullets into the nut, and then they would slide into the bridge as well.
Interesting. I didn't realize it went that far.
Yeah. It's pretty nuts. And then you rely on the microtuners of the Floyd Rose exclusively to tune it.
Right.
And then, of course, adjusting the spring if you're changing the springs if you're changing gauge on the strings.
Yeah, so apparently these stopped being made, and someone in the comments on this said that they're like absolutely worthless now because nobody makes those strings.
Yeah, you can't get those strings anymore, which is like, you know, it's bricked technology at this point. Yeah. But I was thinking about that as I was looking at this ad and screen grabbing it for the show, and thinking if someone sold or made a template to make a piece of wood to fill in that hole in the headstock, because the headstock is just there for looks. It could have been a headless guitar.
Yeah.
But if someone figured out a way to fill that hole and make it sound, there would be enough room to drill holes for tuners. And I think the strings would slide through that nut just fine. And these guitars would probably be great guitars. They'd probably be great guitars.
Yeah, I mean, I never played one.
They're Floyd Rose branded guitars.
I thought they looked kind of chintzy at the time.
They weren't cheap.
They weren't cheap, but they weren't expensive. I think they were like, I want to say they were $400 or $500 at the time. Which again, this is early 2000s, so this is back when like they were like probably $100, $150 more than like a Fender Standard Stratocaster.
Sure.
But I thought this was a neat design. I wasn't a Floyd Rose player, so I wasn't ever really attracted to them. It's just kind of this funky Strat knockoff that was all Floyd all the time.
My thought on them, too, was, and I guess it probably wouldn't be an issue, but if you really dive bombed this thing, could you potentially get the strings to pop out?
It's always the question.
It looks like they're in there pretty deep, and they probably address that issue in the design of it. But I wouldn't be surprised if some hot dogger out there could dive bomb this hard enough to get the strings to pop out.
Right.
It's an interesting concept, and I think it was one of those things where it's like reinventing the wheel too much, so it's kind of doomed from the get-go.
Yeah. All right, I guess I think that's the end, man. I think we made it.
We did it. We're at an hour even, too.
Wow. All right. So thanks to our sponsor, Sinusoid. Again, right now, if you're listening as this episode drops, they are doing a what's the word?
Like a charitable, like buy a cable and all the gross profit, which means all the profit. It's not net profit. It's the gross.
All you're paying for the materials. They are donating their labor and all of what they would normally use to pay for their overhead.
Yeah.
To Samaritan's Purse for Hurricane Harvey disaster relief.
So you get a really cool cable. You get to support a good cause and help some people who need help right now.
Yeah, I think the cheapest cable is like in the low 40s.
Yeah. Hey, that's cheaper than donating to Joel Holstein's church.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, so thanks Sinusoid for supporting us, and we are more than happy to support you guys as well.
Absolutely.
This week's song was sent to us by Charles Gibson, who just joined the Inner Circle. He says, here's a song you can play on the show. This is a band I was part of in the early 2000s as a vocalist. I don't recall much of the gear used, but I believe both the guitar parts were recorded with a MIM Stratocaster. One of them through a, quote, vintage PV Butcher.
Oh, nice.
And all finesse through Pro Tools, but the rest escapes me. So this song is called Pill, and the band he was in was called Classic Faults. And there will be a link in the show notes if people want to hear more from this band.
Absolutely. All
right, thanks.
Later, guys.
Bye.
Telling me the city drunk.